Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Security Repo podcast. Often when we're talking about cybersecurity in general, we're focusing on the digital side of attacks, when adversaries use different techniques to get into our infrastructure and move laterally through our digital systems. But today we're going to be talking about a different side of security, and that's physical security. And this is a really fascinating topic. As my friend Jason Eastreet says, why bypass the network when I can bypass your receptionist? And that is what we're talking about here. And we have a fantastic guest on the show to talk about this. We're joined today by Brice Self, who is the owner of Fortified Solutions. He has over a decade of experience in cybersecurity and consulting for both private and government entities, specializing in physical security and covert entry, social engineering, and wireless security. Brice has also proudly served for over 6 years in the US Navy as a crypto logic technician for networks, and over 4 of those years he was serving at the NSA, although I'm told he can't share too much details about his time there. So without further ado, let's get into this conversation with Brice Self about physical security.
Brice, you are a physical security pen tester. I believe that is correct. What is that? What can you define what on earth that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So pen tester, short for penetration tester. Funny enough. Everyone sees hackers, right? Everyone knows what hackers are, and hackers are trying to get into your network. And obviously, businesses are trying to stop these hackers from getting in to their network, so they can protect, your data, your money, your information, that kind of thing. A lot of organizations, they need to figure out how to prevent actual hackers from getting in. And one of the ways is they basically hire white hat hackers or good hackers to get into the network and figure out what those vulnerabilities are, where the security gaps are, so they can basically fix them so a real adversary can't get in. I basically do the exact same thing, but just on the physical side, meaning my goal is the exact same as far as trying to access data, money, information, what have you, all the sensitive information that are sensitive things that the company wants to keep secret and hidden, right, and out of harm or out of the reach of adversaries. And I just do it on the physical side, where I actually go to the headquarters building, go to the big skyscraper, downtown, go to the big server room, the colo, whatever it is, and try to physically break in, try to get into that server room, whether it's bypassing security personnel through disguises, manipulation, deceit, social engineering tactics, picking locks, bypassing doors, stealing people's badges, that kind of thing. Again, just to identify those security gaps, so we can make the world a better and safer place.
That's fascinating. I love the world of physical security because you guys have so many fun stories to talk about. Yeah. But before we get into that, I'm curious at the start. How did you get into this? What was the journey for you? Was it from being a miscreant teenager, or was this something that you came to later on?
Yeah. So I always say it was. So I joined the military, and that's really where this kind of took off. But I've been doing a lot of thinking, kind of after the fact, and after I got out of the military, and just kind of going through like my childhood, as far as like did I do anything while I was a kid to like really take me on this path? And I guess the answer is yes, right? And it's like just like every kid, I think I won't say every kid, but most kids, I was a bad kid. So I would lie, I would try to break into places. I mean, I'm like self-incriminating, but I was a child at the time, right, and didn't know any better. I was just like a hoodlum, like with my buddies, and we would just just do all kinds of things like that. Try to pick up girls later, right? Trying to say whatever and that kind of thing. I'm not like that anymore, and but a different person back then. But yeah, and then really it just kind of started, I guess, on the cybersecurity piece was, I was in a community college at the time. I couldn't afford the books. I could afford the class, so I ended up having to drop out because she was like, "Hey, do your homework on page 70," and I didn't have a page 70 because I couldn't afford a book. So I was like, "All right, well, I need to do something." So I joined the Navy, joined the U.S. Navy, and I wanted to be a Navy SEAL actually, because I was just into physical fitness and wanted to like do whatever I could for my country, kind of thing. I thought it was cool, right? Blow things up, why not? Basically, they were like, "Hey, your eyesight's terrible. How about you pick any other job?" And so I ended up landing with a job in the Navy. It's called CTN, and it stands for Cryptologic Technician Networks. And that's basically their, I guess, computer network operator, right? Defense, attack, exploitation, that kind of thing. So literally zero to hero. I knew nothing about computers, like didn't even know what a CPU was whenever I joined. And then I go into this, computer cyber network operations path. So that kind of started that journey. And then there were some years, let's say, where I can't really talk about that kind of led to where I'm at, right? So I did some time at the NSA, the National Security Agency. Did some really cool stuff. Went to Afghanistan, that kind of thing. And then yeah. So basically, when I got out, I had an acquired set of skills, right? And basically, whenever I went private, I got hired with this startup cyber consulting firm, and we had some clients that were asking about physical pen testing, and I was like, well, yeah, I can do that already. So I just never did it on the private side. Let's put it that way. So I was like, cool, let's do that. So that's kind of how that got started. I know it's kind of ominous there, but yeah.
Oh, I'm on mute. A little bit ominous, yeah. So I want to let everybody know how I met you. Brice was at the Techno Security and Digital Forensics Summit, our conference, about in Wilmington, North Carolina. I got a blog over on the Get Guardian blog about that, an article on that whole event, which if you want to read more on it. But you said something interesting there, that you have 100% success rate breaking into banks. Mm-hmm. That's just on the surface a little bit unbelievable, but also it's unbelievable because I don't want to believe it. Right. How on earth are you got 100% success rate? Is this something because you're magic, or is the state of bank security just that poor?
Yes. No. No. There's really no magic to it. There's obviously a process and a methodology, something that I kind of created. I saw other physical pen testers and what they were doing, and kind of obviously used my background and skill set to fine tune how I do things. But yeah, as far as the 100% success rate, yeah, never been caught, arrested. I've certainly been challenged before, but it never led to basically me failing or even getting kicked out of the building, for that matter. But basically, I can always get into the building and leave the building with no issue. Yeah, so I mean, the state of physical security, I think, is a facade. I think a lot of companies kind of look internally and say, okay, we have those locked doors, we have security personnel that are roaming 24/7, like those federal banks have broken into. We have high quality badge systems, elevators. You need your badge to get on the elevator. You can't go to any floor but the floor you work on. Heavily controlled places, and it's just a facade, because you can look at these things and see vulnerabilities, and a lot of it, where it comes in, is maybe not the technology that you have in place, or the hardware, but a lot of times it's with the personnel and the I guess the policies and procedures that companies have in place. I think they're not doing enough testing. They're not looking at it as much as they should, and certainly not as much as they normally do on the network side of things. It's a very unbalanced approach as far as they want to look at the network side to stop the hackers from getting in. So it's unbalanced, where they'll maybe put 90% of their budget there, maybe 10% on the physical side, when in actuality it's really a 50-50 split, as far as, hey, they're either coming in this way or that way. So yeah.
I want to dive into a little bit you said there. You said there's been a couple of times where maybe it's been touch and go, or but you haven't failed the assignment or anything. But what's the closest you've ever been to being foiled? Do you have a cool story around here of a time where you almost did get caught? And how does it go when you get caught? Or when people are getting suspicious of you, how do you kind of social your way out of that?
I've certainly been challenged a couple of times. There was one time, and it was early on, like one of my first private physical, or one of my first physical pen tests, and it was at a federal bank, and basically we get on the floor. So I guess just to kind of set the stage here, we get into the building. It's late at night. We chose. It was in a big city. They had an NFL team in that city. It was a home game that night. So we chose specifically that night to go in because the likelihood of people, at least going home, watching the game, having a watch party at their house, or even physically going to the game. And then not only that, but then maybe security personnel, right? Maybe watching the game rather than the cameras, kind of thing. So all these things go into play as far as like the night that we chose. I'm going in late at night, so people aren't awake. Security maybe doesn't want to bother someone from calling their cell phone to maybe push them to make a decision for themselves, right? Hey, I don't want to wake anyone up. Why don't you just let me go through? So we get into this building, get past security. We kind of get a funny look. I told that story, I think, at a techno security. We have a fake badge that basically it's the exact copy of a employee badge. It's not functioning, mind you. But just try to go past the front desk person. She stops us and she says, "Hey," and I just kind of show my badge. She's like, "Oh, okay, you're good." And then we go through and then set off all these alarms on the turnstile. And she goes, "Oh, no, you're fine. It's okay. Like, it happens, right?" I'm like, "Okay, cool." Basically pick locks all the way and all the doors, right? You come off the elevator and then you have a floor, and then you have to get past those doors to get onto the floor. So having to bypass all those doors, and we get into a building, and mind you, it's like we're kind of supposed to be there. We're not really supposed to be there. I think we did something. I can't remember. It was years ago. We did something where I thought that we set off some kind of an alarm or trigger. I think we were trying to open a door or plug something in, to the point where I said, we might be getting caught. And then sure enough, the timing of it, we heard someone coming, to us. So my instinct was like, okay, we're not supposed to be here. We just don't look like we're supposed to be here, at least in the specific place we were at. So I was like, well, let's hide, right? So I get behind. The only thing I could get behind was a chair. And mind you, I was heavier at the time, right? So I'm just like, I'm just seeping out on either side. And then it was a cleaner that came in, and because she heard me kind of scuffling, because it was really quick. I only had a couple seconds, and then she hears me and basically catches me, and she goes, "What are you doing?" But she kind of smiles, right? And then the first thing I can think of, I was just like, "Got you," almost like I was just trying to play hide and seek. Again, it's like one of those things that like you're just really not. You're in the zone, and then you hear something. You're like, "I got to do something quick," right? And yeah, sure enough, I'm like, "Hey, you found me," right? And then she just kind of laughs it off, didn't say anything to anyone, and we just keep doing our thing. So that was the closest. I've had a couple other times where, we've been challenged, and for instance, we get up to a different place, different building, and glass doors, right? From the elevator, you go to the glass door to badge in, and basically was trying to get in. I think I was knocking at the time to make sure no one's on the floor. And then it was like late at night too. And sure enough, there was a guy working late that came to the glass door, didn't open it, and just spoke with me through the glass door. And he was, he had a smirk on us because he was challenging me, and he had a smirk on. I was giving him everything, right? I was like, "Hey, this is what we're doing." Laying it on thick. And he just wasn't. He was an older gentleman. He's been with the company for a while. I came to find out. So, he really cared about security. And sure enough, he had a smirk on his face, almost like he knew what we were doing. but didn't want to say, go to that, I guess, jump to that conclusion. So he just didn't let us pass. And which was fine. So we ended up going to, a couple other floors, getting on those floors, and then, stealing stuff, and then just wait till he left to get back on that floor, kind of thing. So, and then another one where a woman saw me on the elevator, and asked if I needed help finding something. I was just doing like a fake delivery, right? So looking out of place, but kind of in place, but certainly like, hey, let's escort this guy around, kind of thing. I think it was an energy company, right? So some regulations there. And sure enough, she's like, well, hey, who are you looking for? And I did a previous delivery where remembered the name of the other person that we chose. We found the name on LinkedIn. So I was like, hey, I'm looking for this person. And she goes, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take you to her desk. So, and she basically would not, mind you, I tried to like get away, like, hey, no, it's okay. No problem. She's like, no, I'm going to escort you around. Okay. So then she escorts me to the desk of this person, and she goes, and I said, "Oh, okay, that's her. Cool, thank you." And then the first lady, walks off, and then the second lady is just sitting there. It's like, "Okay, yeah, how can I help you?" And I go, "Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I need to get something, or you're not the person I'm looking for, whatever it was." And then she goes, "Oh, okay," and then I just walk off. So again, it's like because no one's maintaining that like integrity of security. And again, we're dealing with humans. We're dealing with human emotions, different personalities. Did they wake up on the right side of the bed that day or the wrong side of the bed? You never know. So yeah, those are the closest calls I've had. And I say that unfortunately, right? Because I want my clients to succeed. I want companies to stop me, right? So in the event that it's not me, it's an actual adversary. So unfortunately, I haven't been stopped, but yeah.
It just seems it's something feels like out of Ocean's 11, which is one of my favorite movies. But just it's a good segue though, because you do want people to succeed and stop you. So how do we do that? What can we do to improve security inside of our companies to make sure that we don't allow people in that don't belong there? Like if you're having 100% success rate, it sounds like there's a lot of room for improvement in the physical security space.
Yeah, no, a lot. I mean, I'm not the only physical pen tester with 100% success rate. I think there's actually more of my peers that have 100% success rate than not. Which again, it's not a Brice has the magic bullet. It's the physical security, I guess, side of things when it comes under the cybersecurity umbrella is really just lacking. So how do you stop us? It's a lot more simple than you think. If I can stick a little rod through the gap of your door to open something from the inside, put something to block that rod from going in, right? And just a piece of metal, right? So that's basically all it is. It's just these simple measures to counter what we do. So a lot of the times I use, a fake delivery, like I mentioned. So obviously I'm basically coming as a visitor, and I want to see how the company deals with visitors. And I'll do it a couple different ways, whether I try to be an unauthorized visitor or an authorized visitor, meaning I will try to sneak past unauthorized through the delivery dock, through, go to the elevator, basically get as deep in the building as I can without talking to anyone, and just trying to sneak past. However, because I'm coming in as a delivery person, I'm also coming in as like one of the dumbest people ever. Meaning if they go, hey, you're not supposed to be here, I go, oh, I didn't know, right? Or I mean, really just that simple. Or if I'm coming as an authorized person and I go to the front desk and I ask for permission, hey, I need to deliver something, what have you. Again, being the dumbest person, right? I'll say, hey, I need to go to floor 10, and they let me go to floor 10. I'm going to every single floor first before floor 10. And if they challenge me on that, oh, I didn't know, right? So stopping something like that would be looking heavily at your visitor policy, understanding that there's going to be a different kind of case for all these kind of visitors, if you will, whether it be cleaners, contractors, a new employee, someone just looking around the building. Maybe you're leasing a space in your building. Maybe you're leasing a floor in your building. Those people might come by. Realtor. So many scenarios that you need to figure out how can your security personnel identify what is valid, what's not, but then also that there's a fail-proof kind of approach to say to basically make sure that authorization is there, and to make sure that the decision to just let someone go unauthorized or just give someone a badge so easily can't be, I guess, easily pushed on, or that decision can't be maybe in the first line of defense, right? Maybe have an additional person, maybe have just one phone number, a hotline that security personnel can call. A lot of times I try to push a number on someone. I try to say, if I'm making a fake delivery and they're picking up the phone and I say, hey, it's to, Vicky in HR, and the security personnel punches in 4 digits on the phone after they look up Vicky's, desk or where they're at. I know they only have their extension. And then maybe I ask and say, hey, do you have their cell phone number if they're not at their desk? No, we don't carry cell phone numbers, right? So maybe that's my opportunity to push a number. So are your security personnel aware that people might do that, right? And it seems innocent, right? Because I just say, hey, no, I'm trying to get authorization. Please call someone. Please approve me. I'm just bringing you to a different person. I'm having you call my buddy who's pretending to be, Vicky, right, or whoever, and then basically giving myself permission. So again, all these loopholes, all these different ways that I can get in and manipulate people, we need to figure out. Well, I have figured out, but basically ways to prevent that different scenarios from happening. So yeah, the best way to do that, get a physical pen test or physical due diligence assessment is what I call it. Basically a walkthrough, right? Okay, hey, we don't want a physical pen test. We're not that secure yet. No problem. I'll come in. I'll walk around with you. I'll teach you things. We'll talk about door by door, step by step. We'll look at your policies. We'll look at all these things to make sure that you're set up for success. Trust but verify. Okay, hey, I trust that Dwayne and Mackenzie, okay, they've been working with me for 10 years, sitting right next to me at this desk and this desk, right? But maybe they both got let go last night and I didn't know. And then they're coming right behind me. And they're disgruntled. They're coming in. They have a plan. They talked about it last night. They got together. I can't believe they laid us off, right? And they're coming in. They're saying, "Hey, our badges still work. We're gonna get in there, or maybe our badges don't work. We're gonna try to tailgate in, and we're gonna plug a thumb drive in." That does want to challenge, right? So we need to encourage that. We need to encourage everyone at every single layer to make sure that, hey, that person in your building, they're supposed to be there. They're supposed to be doing what they're doing. And if they're not, employees should feel comfortable and have a process in place to be able to challenge them.
Talking about kind of a little bit of the process of how this all unfolds. If I own an organization,
well, if I'm the head of security at a bank or at an organization, an energy company you talked at, and I come to you and I say, all right, I want you to conduct a full physical pen test on my organization. What's the first thing that you do? And, what are the steps after that? Like, how does that unfold? Because, we've talked about you getting into places and deliveries and that, but what's kind of step one in this process?
Yeah, as far as like the admin, like just dealing with the client from that point of view?
From the point of view of kind of like everything's done, but it's kind of like, what's the first research that you do? Is it that you look on LinkedIn to try and get, all the researchers? Do you immediately just go to the building and walk in? Like, how do you structure it that you're obviously trying to find the weak points? How do you start in finding those?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so first stage is open source intelligence. Well, I guess first stage is to make sure you have that authority and that permission, right? And then once you have that, you have everything in place, everything's signed, right? Then I start open source intelligence, right? OSINT. I usually the client will just give me an address or several addresses if it's multiple locations, yeah, I mean that's pretty much the most or the least amount of information that I'm given. And then basically I just verify that address, right? So first, yeah, I get eyes on it, but on Google Maps, right? Google Street View. I just look at the building, just kind of see what I'm dealing with there. Mind you, I kind of do this already to get an idea of how large the project is when I'm scoping it. But looking at the building, hey, how many floors, how many entrances can I see? Is there a big parking lot? Are they near other buildings? Are they near coffee shops or restaurants within walking distance? What about public transit? Are they parking their cars underneath the building? Is there a parking deck that is adjacent to the 7th floor where I can spy into your PowerPoint presentation where that's happened before? Anything like that. Just the building itself, everything about the building, looking at it, and then all of its surroundings of how I can use that. Everyone coming in and out, right? I want to know how people are coming in and out. I want to know how people are seeing the building. I want to know, all of it. So OSINT is a really big one. Not only that, but then during OSINT, like I said earlier, you can sometimes see that big sign on the skyscraper on the building says, hey, unit B is for lease, or floor 55 through 60 is for lease, or for, available. Have a phone number on there. And then this is where I start doing my basically my OSINT surveillance kind of approach where, okay, then I'm going to go to the building and I'm going to verify everything I saw on OSINT. Are those doors still there? Are the windows still there? Any new construction, any old construction that's done. Sometimes I'll see like scaffolding, especially in New York City, buildings in New York City on Google View. I mean, they're always building something, right? So you'll see scaffolding here from 2 years ago on the latest update on Google Maps or Street View, and then it's not there anymore. Maybe that floor that was for lease is already been leased, so that's not a way to get in now. Different things like that. Looking on LinkedIn, emails for personnel. A lot of the marketing tools are really good, right? As far as just scraping emails and contacts and positions, especially, is very important. It helps me be able to identify who I actually want to target. I don't want to target a cybersecurity professional in your organization because obviously they might, get on to me or like be on to me a little bit. But I want to know who your higher ups are. I want to know who your big whales are in your company. I want to know who the maybe bigger fish are that have direct connections to them or kind of thing. Maybe the assistant to the CEO or something. That kind of thing. Google Images. Looking for badges. People post their company parties on their website or on their social media, and everyone, because everyone really didn't want to go to that company party, but they're scooting in this coffee, in the coffee bar, and they all have their badges on, and get a nice picture of that. So now I have everyone's badges, so I can make a copy. So that's basically that OSINT piece, and then getting into the surveillance piece. Like I said, I'm boots on ground. I'm looking at the building. I'm having a coffee from across the way. Maybe I'm looking at this other building. I'm looking at the reflection, right, of your building, kind of thing. I'm trying to blend in, just be a normal person. trying to verify everything I saw on the OSINT side of things, looking at the entrances, honestly, just trying to get a pattern of life, right? Trying to understand how this building works. I mean, I look at buildings and cities, humans, very similar to like how a hacker looks at a network. It's like a living, breathing thing, and there's vulnerabilities in here. And I just try to really just sit back and understand what is normal so I can really be normal and fly under the radar. So surveillance. Yeah, looking at everyone coming and going, cleaners, contractors. What are they wearing? What's the demographic of people coming in? Is it an older? Maybe it's a investing financial firm, right? A lot of older folks are about that, right? Just because they have the years of experience. Interns might be younger, right? I'm trying to think of what else here. Yeah, I guess that's the surveillance piece, and then there's some other pieces there, but we can kind of pause there if you want.
Yeah, that's a great intro to all this, and man, there's so much to think about here. But you said something in the middle there. A couple things I just want to dig into. Well, one, just to surface it, I don't think we've been explicit enough. Like, this is your job. You have explicit written permission from these organizations. So if you do get caught, if the cops do show up, you do have a legal recourse. You can, like, if you ever had to pull out that piece of paper.
I'm trying to think. I don't think so. And yes, yeah. So it's called that piece of paper you're talking about. And permission to say, yeah, Brice can do this, and basically have those tasks of what I'm going to be doing. But yes, you're absolutely right. It is very scary because I haven't been challenged. Now, again, there's been others that have been challenged and maybe had to take out their get out of jail free letter. However, understand that we as physical pen testers might carry a fake get out of jail free letter. So that way, if we do get challenged, we present a fake one to say, hey, this is actually what we're doing. And depending on how much they actually verify that, it still might be a pass or fail. At least with that specifically, because I could say, hey, I am a physical pen tester and this is what I'm doing. And that explains my whole cover, but maybe I'm not mentioning the actual company I'm working for or actually show real signatures or real names or real numbers from who's supposed to be approving it. So that way there's enough room in there to say, okay, well, the employee still, or basically bought that story, didn't actually approve me, because anybody could just like I do, right? I make a piece of paper that says, hey, Brice is a network technician from AT&T. I have an AT&T badge, and hey, I'm supposed to be fixing your internet, at 2 a.m. because if not, everyone's heads are going to explode when they walk in at 8 to 9 a.m. Right? So I guess let's see, where was I going? I'm trying to think where I was going with that.
Definitely answer the question. The main point I was trying to bring up is just don't go out and try to break into banks. Like,
yeah,
if you're at home and like, this sounds like a good way to go. Like, don't. I would.
Oh yeah.
There's
very illegal.
There's legal repercussions for all of this. Go get that get out of jail free letter if you're gonna walk down this path. The other thing I wanted to ask on, and then we'll start wrapping up here, is you mentioned policing each other, and I think if a lot of people like me, they kind of like a recoil effect of like, well, now I have to be a cop inside my own organization.
Right.
Could you just like talk about like what are those best practices? How can we better police each other without becoming a police state?
Yeah. I think it's just looking around, right? Understanding that, okay, yeah, we're going to have visitors. But I think it's a really 50-50 kind of partnership, and it's really between the decision makers, the policy makers of the organization, and then the the employees to abide by that, right? And you have to. It's got to be a working relationship, because you don't want to say, "Hey, employees, you have to do this," and they're really not comfortable doing that. As far as like, "Hey, you have to challenge someone every time you see them," right? But maybe it's a compromise to say, "Hey, we want employees